EIV Summary Report, Income Report, and Income Discrepancy Report, Class Code SS 3.2, revised May 2019. Please note that within 90 days and 180 days of the move-in or IC certification being transmitted to tracks, we must confirm all member identities have been verified. This is done by running the summary report in EIV. In conjunction with this, the EIV new admissions log must be maintained. This log is going to be a great way for you to track this requirement and keep track of who you have run the 90 and 180 days for. Once the entire household is verified, you can then generate the income report and income discrepancy report. Please note that if identities are not verified, you are unable to verify income data through the income report and income discrepancy report. So if there are issues with identities, these must be corrected as soon as they are noted in EIV. Once you have that income report and income discrepancy report, you will compare this information to the move-in 50059. And if the information from the 50059 and the EIV reports agree, these reports become part of the tenant file, section 5 on top of the remainder of the move-in documentation. If a discrepancy exists or if different information is in EIV than what was reported and processed, we need to take steps to resolve that discrepant information. Please note that the discrepancy report must always be printed at the same time as the income report. Both reports should show the same date printed, and both reports become part of the resident move-in file. So whether you're running the 90 or 180 day reports, these become part of the move-in file, both sections, both parts of that. So as a recap, within 90 and 180 days, you're running that summary report as well as the income report and the income discrepancy report. A tip for you is the alerts and approvals box on your One Site Today page. If you do not have this on your Today page, definitely add that by using the Customize option on the upper right-hand side of the Today page. This is going to give you a reminder regarding that 90-day requirement. Now the 90-day requirement is a HUD requirement, so that is why One Site gives us the option to activate this alert. However, the 180-day review of EIV is an SHP requirement, so there is no way for us to turn on an alert in One Site for the 180-day review. So we definitely suggest making use of your Outlook calendar, your physical desk calendar, setting yourself a nice reminder with a post-it note, run by this date, whatever your organizational strategy is, to make sure that you are meeting those deadlines. So the summary report, going into more detail, what is the summary report? So again, within 90 and 180 days of the move-in certification being transmitted to tracks, could also be an initial certification, we must confirm that member identities have been verified. Once all members show verified, the summary page no longer needs to be printed unless there is a change in household composition. The bottom of this slide is a screenshot from the EIV reports matrix. As a reminder that EIV report matrix is part of our EIV policy and procedure document, and it is a very helpful reference tool that we suggest that you have printed. Keep it in your EIV binder or close at hand when you are writing your EIV reports, as it will give you a reminder of what each report is through a description, when you run that report, what you do if you have a finding on that report, and where to file that report, whether that is in the resident file or your EIV binder. To run the summary report, on the left-hand side, you're going to look for the By Head of Household link. It's going to allow you to enter in the head of household social security number, select either your contract or project number, and click Go. You'll then have this pop up with several tabs across the top, where the first tab is Summary Report. At the bottom there, you can see the list of household members, and the identity verification status for all is verified. So this page is printed, added to the resident file, and we don't need to print this again unless there is a change in household composition. What do we do if not all members are verified? So if one of those members shows as not verified, we're still going to print the report showing that we ran it timely. Otherwise, there's no way to prove that we ran that report. We're going to review what that report says, make any changes that are needed. Perhaps the identity failed because of the social security number did not match. We'll make those corrections and then prepare to run again per our policy. At the top of the EIV new admissions log, which per our policy should be updated at least monthly, we have summarized what must be done for all new tenants within 90 and again with 180 days after the move-in. And we suggest doing this during the quarterly EIV reports in January, April, July, or October as a way of reminding everyone to run it. We access EIV and review the new household EIV Summary Income and Income Discrepancy Report. Any discrepancies are researched and resolved within 30 days. So if there is any issue brought to light through review of the EIV, we must be resolving it within 30 days. So that new admissions log gives you an opportunity from the left-hand side to record the move-in date for the household, the unit number, head of household name, and then the date of the first review, which again is going to be within 90 days of when you have transmitted that move-in or IC certification to TRAX. So in this case, the first move-in was March 15th. So more than likely, that move-in wasn't reported until the next HAP. So that next HAP would have been processed at the beginning of April, perhaps transmitted on April 10th, the last possible day to transmit. We do prefer that the HAPs are transmitted as early in the month as possible and not wait for the 10th. It does happen. So this was transmitted on April 10th. 90 days would be approximately July 10th. So that first review is a little bit past when it should have been, depending on when that TRAX file was sent. At that point, you're going to indicate the verification status. Are all members verified? Did they fail because something did not match? Are they listed as not verified or deceased? Was there a discrepancy identified? And then what was the date of the second review? So that second review should be within 90 days of that first review. And again, are all members still verified? Were there any additional discrepancies identified? Does the income match what you have on the move-in 5-9? After you've reviewed that summary report, your next step is going to be looking at the income report and the income discrepancy report. So this is part of that 90 and 180 day requirement. So if you're running this, if you're running EIV, you're searching by the household social security number, you're at 89 days after you've transmitted that TRAX file, and the summary report shows that there are errors and identities were not verified for several members. The income report is not going to show income for those members that have not yet been verified. However, we must still print the reports to show that we ran them timely. There's no way to prove that we ran them if we did not print them. And that's a common theme with EIV. If there is an error, if EIV returns an error and says the database cannot be reached, if it says that there are no findings, 0 findings found, you must still print the page. Print it, make sure at the bottom it shows the date that you printed. This is going to prove that you ran the report on a timely manner. So this income report, you may run this within 90 days, and there might not be information for one of the household members, but you are still meeting the HUD requirement by running it. Any issues that are identified should be addressed within 30 days. So when you're reviewing that income report, what we're really doing is looking to make sure that the information being returned by the National Directory of New Hires and the Social Security Administration match what the applicant told us. So is the Social Security information verified? SSN, date of birth, surname. Are there any red flags, such as employers, undisclosed employers, recent income activity, unemployment, any benefits listed? Does it match the 5-9? So when you have run the by head of household Social Security number, you'll see the second tab is income report. You will print this and it is added to the section 5 of your resident file. In conjunction with that is the income discrepancy report, which is always printed at the same time as the income report. Must be printed in tandem, always, always, always. So if you're printing the income report, be sure that you are then clicking on the discrepancy page and printing that as well. In most cases, you're going to see a report like this screenshot says, no discrepancy report found, no results found, no issues, etc. That's great, but you still have to print this. Add it to the resident file. It proves that you ran the report. Please note that there is a quote-unquote bulk link in EIV for income discrepancies. Do not run it in bulk because that bulk link does not give you this page that shows no discrepancy report. So if there's no discrepancy for a household, you cannot prove that you ran the discrepancy reports because there's nothing to print from that area. So that's why we instruct you to run it by household. However, if there is a discrepancy, the report will look like this screenshot here. You'll see at the top section the head of household information, and the second section is the discrepancy analysis. There is a separate training on reviewing the income discrepancy report and resolving any income discrepancies. However, I do find it helpful to go through a few sections of this report as an introduction. So whenever I see this report and I'm reviewing it with site staff, the first item that I'm looking at is the effective date of action. And in this case, it is 4/1/2017. What this tells us is which 5-9 EIV is looking at. It's saying, I'm looking at the data from this 5-9, from 4/1/2017. The next piece that I look at is the period of income for discrepancy analysis. You'll see in this case, it's January 1st, 2016 through December 31st of 2016. So what this is telling us is EIV is looking at its data between those two dates. So for the year of 2016, it's pulling that data and it's comparing it to the 5-9 from April of 2017. At this point, you might say, but that 5-9 isn't during that period. That is correct. HUD and EIV do this intentionally. They do this intentionally. What they're doing is they're looking at a period of time that is 3 months, between 3 months and 15 months prior to the 5-9 date, to ensure that any changes that may have happened between that period and that date have already been accounted for. So they're not going to overlap. There's always going to be a gap in time between the effective date and the period of income for the analysis. There's always going to be a gap like that. You're going to say there's always an opportunity for income to change in that gap, and that is correct. However, did we already account for it is the question. So when you're reviewing the EIV income report and you're wondering what is EIV looking at, look at data between these two dates and compare it to this 5-9. What the below section is telling us is between those two dates, the actual amount of total income for those 12 months was $11,856. However, what we have listed on the most recent 5-9 from April of 2017 is 12 months of income is anticipated to be $7,127. And this is a difference of $4,729. So it's saying, All right, so what you have on the most recent 5/9 is $4,729 less than what they earned during these 12 months. Is that correct? The next column here, annualized last quarter, is giving us the last 3 months of that period. So from September forward. So September 30th through December 31st. This household only earned $8,164. So their income decreased. You'll see the difference between that last quarter and what we have on that last 5/9 is only $1,037. Woo. So that difference is not enough to create the discrepancy. The discrepancy is being created here with that actual. Discrepancies are triggered when there's a difference of $200 a month or $2,400 a year. So in that case, you'll see that this is over $2,400 a year. So that is why this household has this discrepancy. If I were a guessing person, I would say at some point between the middle of the year and the last quarter, this household lost some income, whether that be a federal or Social Security benefit, unemployment, or some kind of wages. Their income went down. So did we already document the loss of this income? Have we verified the difference? So when you're looking at EIV, look to see what is part of this $11,856. Was it an extra benefit? Was it employment that they were receiving during that time? And if so, did we document in the tenant file the loss of that income? If we did, then we note this on the report. See documentation from such and such dates showing loss of income, and you have completed your job. If there are questions about a discrepancy, you can't figure it out, you say, gee, I don't know. I don't have any documentation that shows exactly what this difference is. Yet EIV shows some income I'm not familiar with, maybe an employer that you didn't know about. If you need to meet with that household for any reason because of EIV findings, you need to go into letters and notices and pull that EIV 10-day letter. It's going to alert the household that we found something in EIV and that we need to meet with them within 10 days. So here's what this letter looks like. And you may notice on the bottom part of the letter, it does list several forms that are enclosed. Now, some people are not as savvy with searching through one site as others. So what we've done is we've included all of those attachments as part of that letter. So if you go to print that 10-day letter and you say, why the heck is it 12 pages? It's because we included all the attachments for you, trying to make your life easier. So go print that letter right from one site. When you meet with that household, you need all adult members to complete the EIV Resident Acknowledgement of Accuracy of Data form. This is going to show that they reviewed the form with management and that they agree with what EIV says for their income. If a member does not agree with the data in EIV, they must indicate that on the form themselves in their own handwriting and explain why they don't agree. Maybe they never worked for that employer. Maybe the Social Security benefit is wrong. What do you do? What do you do if the information in EIV is incorrect? We're going to turn to third-party verification, is what we're going to do. A helpful tool for you while you are working through a discrepancy is the EIV discrepancy worksheet. This is also available in one site under letters and notices and in many of the handout packets that I give out. Here's the top of that discrepancy worksheet, and you'll see that there is an opportunity to indicate quite a few reasons for a discrepancy. So why are you needing to look at EIV closer with that household? Is there an issue with verifications, tenant, deceased tenants, multiple subsidy, over-reported income or under-reported income, what type of income? So make sure that you are identifying what the discrepancy is coming from. And then here are your steps. List the discrepancy on the EIV recurring error log. Send resident the EIV 10-day letter if you cannot determine that this is invalid or the same error as last month or quarter. So if you can't figure out what the discrepancy is from a simple review of the resident file or one site, you're going to send them that 10-day letter with all of the attachments. Again, this discrepancy can be used for any EIV report, not just the income or income discrepancy report. When you meet with that resident, you're going to print a new income and income discrepancy report from EIV and review it with the resident or the household. The reason you're printing a new one is because EIV updates very frequently. So you're going to be able to pick up any new data that has come in through EIV and ensure that you're looking at the most recent information that we have. Once you've reviewed the reports with the household members, you'll have them complete the resident acknowledgement of accuracy of data form. Again, explanations must be in the resident's handwriting. Review the resident file to determine if that discrepancy is valid or invalid. Were they recently terminated? EIV not reporting dual benefits, and now they are. Is there self-employment income? Is their employer not reporting income through the National Directory of New Hires? All kinds of things are very possible. However, if you cannot determine that it's invalid, we're going to move on. And here's where you're going to obtain signatures on a third-party form, as well as a new 9887, 9887A, if required. Fax and mail all required third-party verification forms, follow up. Document the file. List the issue on the recurring error log and in the EIV binder. So you're going to say, what did I do next to your error? Met with the household on this date, sent out third parties on this date, received third parties back, etc. Make sure you're noting all of that so it's clear to anyone who's reviewing your log or your binder that you followed up on the discrepancy. This is true whether the error is with a Social Security benefit or employment. You're going to turn to third-party verification if you cannot determine, or especially if the household member does not agree with the information in EIV. We're going to use a third-party verification. So once you've obtained your verifications, you need to determine if, one, we need to complete an interim or retroactive certification or any corrections based on what was verified. Please note that if you're creating a retroactive certification or a correction, that certifications that follow that are more recent must also be corrected to bring up that correction into those certifications. If this is an IR, you'll list that interim on the interim tracking log. If you need any assistance with entering retroactive income, you'll contact your senior manager or compliance analyst. Again, document in brief detail on your recurring error log that this was valid and the date it was resolved. And if applicable, some CAs require that we communicate with them and provide a copy of the repayment agreement. Ooh. That way they can review that repayment agreement and compare it to the information being submitted on the HAP. The second option is to document on the recurring error log, both in the EIV binder and on the network, that this is not a valid discrepancy, and document the resident file with proof. So for example, if we review the 90-day EIV, it shows an employer that was not disclosed to us. We meet with that household, they say, no, I never worked for that employer. You send out a third party and the employer says, you're right, that person doesn't work for us. We must have made an error when we were entering another employee's information. Perhaps they transposed some Social Security number data and accidentally tied it to this person. It has happened. It has happened more than once in my experience. So you'll document those results both on the log and in the resident file. What did you find? And then make brief notes here on this file. Regardless of which correction you need to do, make sure you're noting the date resolved, the final action, if there was one, whether there's a repayment agreement, when that repayment was signed, and the date the corrections are being reported on the HAP. That way we can go in and review any corrections that were transmitted. At the time of either an annual or an interim recertification, you are required to run both the income report and income discrepancy report. This is prior to processing. So generally, these are being pulled at the time of an interview or just prior to an interview if you have a 9887 on file that is still valid. Your 9887, 9887A release forms are valid for 15 months. So if you had this signed prior to your last annual certification, it should still be okay for the following year. However, please review your files to ensure that you do have a valid release on file before you run EIV for either an annual or interim. These reports must be reviewed with the household to determine if they agree with the information. How do you document this? This was just discussed a few moments ago, the acknowledgement of accuracy of data form. And that is in your annual recertification forms packet. If you are preparing annual recertifications, you can run the income reports by using the by contract number reporting option on the left-hand side and selecting the AR effective month. The only caveat to this is that if you submitted a 5/9 and it had the incorrect next recertification month, that information has been reported from one site to tracks to EIV. So EIV is not going to have that household listed here if their next recertification month was accidentally incorrect on the last recert. So my suggestion to you would be to make sure you are reviewing the reports in one site regarding the last AR dates to ensure that everyone who needs a new AR, their next AR is the correct date, and that you have every household you need listed on this report. So when you click on the income report link, you'll see each of the households that have a recertification in that month. Now again, I do not suggest using the detail reports link because it folds all of the income reports into one. So the page breaks aren't very good. The data from one household runs onto the page for the next household. Don't do that. Make your life easy. Click on the social security number, which is a link, and it's going to give you the pop-up specific to that household. From there, click print on the income report. Select the income discrepancy report tab and click print. Again, if you have an income discrepancy, it will look like this. And in your annual recertification forms packet, it is designed to populate an EIV resident acknowledgement of accuracy form for each adult member. If any discrepancies are found, this is when we send that household the EIV 10-day letter. Is there anything else you might print if you find a discrepancy? Perhaps the EIV discrepancies worksheet to help you work through that discrepancy.